Hi, I'm Dr. Lindsay Coble.
Dr. Noel Crosby, and we're the Sound Sisters, the Hearing Diaries. This episode of the Hearing Diaries, we're actually just going to be talking about a book that I read many years ago, but I still follow the advice I got from it today. And it is called The Four Agreements. I'm wondering if anybody's heard of that book. And it was written by Don Miguel Ruiz. And it's really given me some wonderful advice over the years how to navigate life, especially when it's can be difficult, and some strategies to use about that. But Lindsay had never heard about it. She
I
had
had
never read the
never
book.
I had never
So
heard
I'm
about it.
hoping I'm going to share with her today.
I'm all about
Yeah.
self-help books, and I know you've alluded to it many times, so I'm excited to hear about kind of your takeaways and where you learned about this book and how many years ago was it when you read it, or where did you ever hear about it?
Yeah. So I don't even really remember. I went through this period of time. I was probably in my Yeah, I was in like my mid 40s. It's that time I think as a woman, maybe, you're going through a lot and you're just discovering if is there any more? My daughter was probably, middle school. And I think I was just searching for
Mm.
things a lot. And I had seen the movie, What the Bleep. Have you ever seen that
No, I've never
movie?
seen that. I've never even
It's
heard
all
of it.
about quantum physics and yeah, so I had seen the movie What the Bleep, and it just opened my eyes to a different way of thinking that I guess I never realized I could walk down this other path of how I think about things. And then after that, I saw the movie The Secret. Did you ever know
Never
about
heard
that
about that either. I'm not good at
movie, The
movies.
Secret?
No.
My gosh. So it's a book too. The
Okay.
Secret totally changed my life. Totally just changed how I thought about everything. And then I went to this training called Landmark, and it also helps you create living in what's possible and not living in your limited beliefs about what you think's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so like those three things really like just shifted how I think about things. And so from there, I started just listening to self-help everywhere I could find it. I was a rep. I was driving around a lot at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So I would just go and at the time it was DVDs. So I would get DVDs for my car and I would just drive around and listen to all this self-help. And I just could not get enough of it. And somewhere along the line, this book came up. And this was more of a practical guide to living, I think. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the self-help that I liked, people might associate it with being woo-woo, right? So I always say I'm a woo-woo girl. I like to look at life in a woo-woo manner because
Uh-huh.
it makes me feel like I have more control.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is tends to be more like that. But this is really a practical way of just living life and just being the best you can be and looking at life in a way that just makes it easier to navigate. So
And
that's
so,
kind of my story about that.
and so the big part of the book is these four agreements, right? That I know you allude to. So what are
That's
the
right.
four agreements?
Yes. So the four agreements are one is be impeccable with your word. The next one is don't take anything personally. The next one is don't make assumptions. And the last one is always do your best.
I
So
love that.
those are four agreements to live by.
I love that. And I feel like those are just so real. I feel like all of us can probably learn something from reading that book. And like you said, not being, you don't have to be a woo-woo girl, but understanding how these, just accepting that and living our life by kind of those four agreements is such a refreshing way to live, I think.
Yes, it really does. It really just helps you to see life in a different way, I would say. So I'll
Hmm.
take each one and you want me to take each one and go through
Yeah,
it?
I think so. So let's talk about be impeccable with your word
All right.
first.
And
Explain what that means to you, what you garnered from the book.
okay, it's really about speaking with integrity. Say only what you mean. You also want to avoid, I'm looking over here because this is like how it outlines it. You
Hmm.
also want to avoid using the word to speak against yourself or anyone or gossip about other people. And then you want to use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love, right?
Hmm.
So to me, what this means is that if I I have something else on my wall too. It says, before you speak, let your words pass through these three gates.
Mm,
Is it true? Is it necessary? And is it kind?
mm-hmm,
Now, I am not going to tell you that I am perfect at this, but I do think about, like, when you talk about other people to other people, you create that person to the
mm-hmm,
person that you're talking
mm-hmm,
about.
mm-hmm,
And I don't know if you've ever had this happen with you where you learn about a person and you may learn, oh my gosh, they're the most wonderful person in the world and they do this and blah, blah, blah. And then you meet them and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I've heard so much about you, and the person's created them for you in a really positive way.
mm-hmm.
So you go into that relationship thinking just the best, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you may have another relationship where you've only heard bad things about that
Mm-hmm,
person.
mm-hmm,
That person did this, that person, is this, this, this. And so when you meet that person, you already start feeling negative about them.
mm-hmm,
And you only saw them through the other's eyes. You never saw them through their own eyes.
mm-hmm,
And so that's kind of hard sometimes. It's hard to see the person in any other way once that person's been created for you. So I
mm-hmm.
always think about that way when I create somebody to somebody else. What am I doing to that? I'm not allowing that person to be themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's
that's
such a
one
good
of the
example
ways.
that I've never even thought of that, that as you talk about someone else, you're creating what these other people you're talking to are going to think about this other person. And so,
Yes,
I mean, I think as we mature and we get older, we recognize I don't want people talking negatively about me. So why would I do that to someone else? And I
right.
think that comes as we mature. I think as you're growing up or you get involved in a conversation, it can be kind of catty sometimes, or you don't recognize how you could be impacting someone else, especially
Yes.
through social media and all the things where we're
Oh,
not
right.
even
And
always
especially
talking
with
face to
social
face now.
media, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a consideration. Okay, so speaking of social media, let's change to don't take anything personally. Tell us
Yes.
how.
So this is always a very hard thing because I I have to always just like take a deep breath and say it's not about me. It's not
Mm-hmm,
about me. It's about the other person, right?
mm-hmm,
So sometimes maybe, I'm, as you know, and as you are too, we're both very social people. And so I'm always connecting with people and talking to people and texting people. And I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but sometimes I'll like reach out to somebody and then I don't hear back from them.
mm-hmm.
And I sometimes will take it personally, like,
Yeah.
oh, was it something I said? Is it something that happened? Like I try to blame myself for it. Like, well, why didn't that person reach out to me? And
Mm-hmm.
it could be as simple as the person was out of town or the
Yeah.
person never got my message. It has nothing to
Yes.
do with me or anything I've said or done or anything. But that's the first place I go to. Is
Mm-hmm.
the first place I go to is like, what did I do to
Mm-hmm.
cause the person to act that way or respond in a certain way? So even if somebody's angry about something and you think it's directed at you, you have to stop to think about maybe that person just had a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that person is worried about their loved one. Maybe that person just heard bad news. I don't know if you've ever seen that little video about a hospital and people are walking through the hospital. It might have been Mayo Clinic. I'm not sure. It was like a big hospital that put this together. And they were just like walking by each other and interacting, and everybody was having their little bubbles above their head saying what was going on with them.
Oh,
Like they
uh-huh.
just found out their wife had cancer. They found out their person's going to die. They're worried about daycare because they're not going to get to daycare in time to pick. So it was
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that all of us are always thinking about and going through. And we might, be short with somebody because of those particular things,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know that. And so you'll take it personally.
Yeah.
So it's just a good way of looking at, and acting according to what you need to act like. And like
Mm-hmm.
instead of like speaking angrily to that person back,
Mm-hmm.
speak kindly to them, and then you might see it turn around, and then you kind of have to laugh at yourself about it a little bit. I feel like when you do take something personally, and then you find out
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with me.
Uh-huh. Well, I think also kind of like our first statement of be impeccable with your word. I think when you act with integrity to begin with, it really helps alleviate your concerns of taking things personally. because you don't feel like, oh, did I do something wrong? Did
Right.
they hear something that I said that maybe I shouldn't have said? And so I love the book Let Them. That's a recent book that I've been
Oh,
reading.
yes. Yep. I know. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
have to talk about that.
Green Book. Yeah,
You'll
another
have
book
to
that we
talk
can
about that
highlight. And
one
I think
day
it's
too.
similar to don't take anything personally, is, if somebody has a thought about you, don't take it personally. Let that go because you know
Yep.
who you are and
Yep.
how you want to be portrayed.
Yep. And
Um,
and don't you think that some people spend their whole life
oh
like
yeah.
taking things personally
Yes,
and
yes,
it makes them miserable?
yes. It is
Yeah, and the
miserable.
way they act about it because of it, yeah, like
Yeah.
if they could just let that go, I think it could
Mm-hmm.
really make a difference. Let me just
Mm-hmm.
tell you the things that it says about it. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality
Mm-hmm.
and their own dream. And when you are immune to the opinions of, and actions of others, you won't be the victim of
Mm-hmm.
needless suffering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, I think, like you said,
Yeah.
this whole book just helps you to live a little bit lighter of a life and to be happier. You're not just consumed
Yes.
in
And more
others.
in control, I think.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Don't make assumptions. You want to read off what that
Okay.
one
So don't
says?
make assumptions. Yeah, let me tell you that. So don't make assumptions, or find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want.
Mm-hmm.
This is another a big one
Mm-hmm.
that people do. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid any misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. And with this one agreement, he says you can completely transform your life. Like,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever had, again, it's kind of like the don't take things personally. You
Mm-hmm.
make that assumption that the person's mad at you, or the
Yes.
person's a bitch, or excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
or the person's, mean, or the person's
Yes.
or the person's not thoughtful or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they're
Mm-hmm.
always making the assumptions. And a lot of times we assume, like we prefer to make assumptions
Mm-hmm.
because it's harder for us to really get to the truth of it. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's just the way we are conditioned too, or
Yeah.
maybe we grew up with parents who always blamed us for things, so that's
Mm-hmm.
our go-to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you could just say, I wonder, I'm just curious why you're acting like that today.
Mm-hmm.
Did I do anything to upset you? Or, and
Mm-hmm.
then the person will usually say, if they did upset you, you did need to be honest with other people. You
Yeah.
can't lie about things or pretend that you're not upset if you are. So it's also a learning experience between people when they're
Mm-hmm.
communicating.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I
I
think
do this with my husband a lot. I
yeah.
don't know if
Yeah,
that ever
that's what I was
happens
gonna
to
say.
you.
That's what comes to mind with me is my husband. Sometimes I practice with
Yeah,
him, but if I ask him a question in the evening, how was your day or something, and he just says, good, it's like, well, it can end right there and be flat, and I can assume that he's stressed out about his day. Well, then when I ask
right,
more questions about, you had to go here and there, you had this conversation, I even think it helps him to open up to talk about it more too. He probably felt heavy coming home from work. So when we talk about it more, it kind of releases that and I have a better understanding of what he's going through and maybe why he doesn't want to go to dinner that night or doesn't want to go for a bike ride as a family or whatever. But you can't just make an assumption that he's frustrated and down and out when you just have to ask the right questions,
right.
which I think comes from being a rep.
Yeah, it's asking the question.
Yeah, being a rep, we were always
Yeah,
trained to ask questions, which in our industry we know and feel that that comes from rep life. But I think it's good for everything. Like you said, don't just settle on a simple question. Ask the
yeah,
questions.
yeah. Don't
Okay.
make assumptions. And I think there have been battles over assumptions, like divorces over making
Yes.
assumptions.
Yes. Yes.
So it's always
Ask the
just a good thing to
questions.
remember.
Okay, the last one,
Yeah.
always do your best. Let's round it out with this one.
Always do your best. So let's go review that. So your best is going to change from moment to moment. Sometimes you're only capable of doing that's your best at that moment.
hmm hmm
And it will be different when you are healthy, as opposed to sick, right?
hmm
And then under any circumstance, simply just do your best and you will avoid self-judgment self-abuse, and regret. I don't know
Hmm.
if you've ever had the time of day where you're tired. You've been
Yes.
working all day and you need to do real air or something, and you're just like, I just don't have it in me to do that. And so you may or may not do it, but I always try to go back to, is that my best? Am I
Yeah.
doing my best for that person in front
Uh-huh.
of me?
Hmm.
Or let's just say you're distracted at work and you got a lot of other stuff that you need to do, and you're maybe frustrated because maybe all the
Hmm.
patients were late or whatever, and you
Hmm.
just think to yourself, do I need to do all that, or will that person know there's the difference? Or
Hmm.
and so I always kind of try to think that. Now, I mean, there's some days where I am too tired and I may not do it, but then
Hmm.
I may say, okay, if they have to come back, and I'll do it another day. So it's
Yeah.
a practice. You're not.
Hmm.
The other thing, progress, not perfection. You're
Hmm.
not going to be perfect at any of these. You're just going to always do your best.
Hmm.
The other thing that I would know is, like, I used to, when during the on the movie The Secret, one of the things they were saying is, like, somebody who's a janitor, like, that's their job. And
Hmm.
you can be a janitor and you can be a crappy janitor and you can
Hmm.
hate what you're doing and you cannot, like, do a good job and you can treat people horribly. Or you can be a janitor and you can know that you're giving people a cleanliness, and you're giving
Hmm.
people, they're going to be able to come in and look around and feel good in their environment. So you're providing something to them it's very important.
Hmm.
And if you take the attitude that what you're doing is a wonderful thing and you're going to make a difference in people's lives, no matter what it is,
Hmm.
and you do your very best at it, it shows in your work, your personality, and how you influence other people. So I
Hmm.
always try to keep that in mind as well.
I love
So
that.
those are the four agreements.
I love
Yeah,
that.
a
Thank you,
good way
Noelle.
to
You're
live.
making me want to read the book. I feel like I'm in such a pivotal time of my life as
And
a
it's very
business owner,
easy,
a
short
mother.
little book.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like my whole staff would probably like it, to be honest. What a good little book with good
Yeah, I think it
points.
would be good for everybody.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah, you could
Thank
do
you for
like a
highlighting
little
that
book
book.
club with it or
I
something.
know, such a good little book.
Yeah. And what one more thing, there was a five, there's a, like, he redid it and there was a fifth agreement, and it's just like, be in the now. So be in the
Mm.
now, don't be in
Hmm.
yesterday, don't be in the future, just be here now. And that's not always easy either. So
No, it's not,
that's
but also a
another
good
one I'm
one. A
working
good
about,
fifth to add, I would
working
say.
towards.
So good. Thanks,
Yeah.
Noelle.
Yeah. So I hope somebody gets something out of this. And if you want to talk about it, let us know if you've had experience with any of these four agreements. So that's a great end to the show, right?
Yes. Thanks,
I
guys.
hope
We
you
are
all
the
have a
Sound
great rest
Sisters.
of the day. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.